Long Beach is a staple of North American road racing. Celebrating its 50th year, the Grand Prix is the longest-running street race on the continent and serves as a perennial celebration of Southern California's vibrant car culture scene. This year, GT America, powered by AWS, returns for another battle by the beach with 16 high-performance GT cars from the world's most prestigious brands set to take to the track for a pair of 40-minute sprints. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and it's Amanda Busick patrolling the pits for us once again, getting ready to go for the start of this first 40-minute race of the weekend, Calvin. This is a driver's favorite event. Fans love it. I mean, this is a place you've been coming for a long time, and there's something special every time you turn up.
It's a real street festival. It's such an iconic venue. So much history here over the last 50 years, of course, and what a great grid we have getting ready to fire up for the start of this one.
3 different classes, SRO 3, GT2, and GT4. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but for some late developing storylines, let's head down to the pits and Amanda Busick.
Hey guys, happy to say happy race 1 here in Long Beach for the 50th anniversary. As you guys were just saying, our race director Brian Till to kick off this weekend said what an honor it was for GT America to be in to take in these festivities. The fans have stuck around for our race as we close out the day here at Long Beach. But as you can see, I'm standing between a pair of GT3 cars. You have Gray Newell in his very first pole in class in just his 3rd race in GT3. He was on the pole here last year in GT4 and had a podium finish. Next to him is James Safronis. I talked to Gray about this. You're going against one of the greats here in SRO and said that turn 1 is what he's going to have to defend when it comes to James Safronis, who has 3 wins here at Long Beach. But as I rotate around, this one's a bummer, guys. You're going to see a spot on our grid here right now. This would have been filled by Patrick Mulcahy. I'm here that it's a throttle cable issue. Actually talked to James Safronis in his car as a team update from the team owner and said that they're going to try to get that sorted so that he can join in the race. Talking to some officials, if he can make it out in time, he will be at the back of the pack. But you'll see next to him, Justin Rothberg returns. It was his first Long Beach last season, back with us here this year. Said that he still loves the street races, hopes he can get those mirrors as close to the wall as possible. Awesome, as always, to see George Kurtz back with us as well, picking up that win in Sonoma. He'll race with us this weekend and then hopefully see us back at the Indy 8-hour. Elias Sabo getting ready to go. Kyle Washington, who picked up his first win in GT America in Sonoma, on the grid as well. We have a pair of GT2 cars and a top of our GT4 grid this afternoon. Paul Sparta racing in his first ever race here at Long Beach. So a lot of stories to tell. I'll keep updated on Patrick, and hopefully he'll make it out to the grids, guys.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, we certainly hope to see Patrick. He's from Huntington Beach, California, not so far away, and was really looking forward to the chance to get to take part here in this race. He's been super fast this weekend, driving an older spec Porsche 911. It's the 991.2 variant, so the previous generation of the 911, but even still very, very quick, and was set to roll off 3rd.
Yeah, and he was certainly potential for a pole sitter here yesterday. The session was cut short with a couple of issues out on the racetrack, so we had a red flag, very short qualifying session. Gray Newell, as Amanda said, claimed his 2nd consecutive pole here. Last year was in GT4, now on GT3 pole, of course. But big disappointment not to see that GMG car on the grid. Hopefully they can get it fired up and get out into the action at some points, because he has a lot of potential to do very well here on his home circuit.
If he can, and if indeed he does start at the back of this pack, that could make for some fun viewing, because we know he's quick. Only a partial season of Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West under his belt a year ago. Came up through the Porsche driving experience, Porsche Club driving days, and now into the big show, looking hopefully to make his first ever GT3 start here at Long Beach. But as Amanda has mentioned, throttle cable issues, and it's not clear if Patrick Mulcahy will take the start. The fans, though, here, Calvin, such an important part of this event. They're passionate about it. And, you know, when you come to the Los Angeles area, you're going to see some amazing street cars. And in many ways, these GT3, GT2, and GT4 cars are the race car derivatives of those wonderful road cars you see on the streets of L.A.
Absolutely. So many young fans here have cars like this up on their bedroom walls. Just amazing to see such a great crowd here. Yesterday, Friday, which is a work day for most people, it was packed. Absolutely packed to the gills here at Long Beach. The whole promoter does a great job there with Jim McKaylee and steering the ship here for now 50 years. I've known Jim for a long time, and he's got so much passion for racing and bringing entertainment to the streets of Long Beach. It's action-packed. There's always something going on the racetrack all day long, and I think that's why the fans come here in droves.
Not much work getting done yesterday
No.
here in the LVC. But that's what we love to see. And again, this is such a huge part of the sporting culture now, 50 years in to the Grand Prix of Long Beach. First race was held here in the fall of 1975. It was a Formula 5000 race that was used as a proof of concept trying to lure Formula One to Long Beach. And since then, there's been no looking back. It continues to grow. With that, let's head back down to the grid and Amanda.
Hey guys, and with the honor, Gray Newell is about to fire his race car and lead us to the green. And as we go, drivers, start your engines.
And that's the sound of the number 24 Aston firing to life. First ever GT3 pole for Gray Newell. Just his third start in this series. Has done a little GT3 racing elsewhere around the world in preparation for this championship assault in GT America powered by AWS. He was able to take advantage of a stop-and-start qualifying session like you talked about, Cal. Went out, put down a flying lap early, and when others were robbed effectively of a chance of getting a fast lap by those red flags, his fast time was able to hold the test of time.
Well, it's risk versus reward. It was only a 15-minute session. You know, if there's any kind of incident, there's a chance you might not see any further action. That's exactly what happened. But as we look at the grid, that open slot from Mulcahy, I just got confirmation from the race director, that has to stay open. So George Kurtz, sitting there in P5, he's got an open lane there to try and get onto the tail end of Gray Newell going down in turn one as well. So he's going to feel it from all sides.
We'll want to take a look for that on the start for sure. Iconic scenes here at Long Beach as we look at the starting grid. As mentioned, on pole, it is Gray Newell. He'll have James Sofronis alongside. Patrick Mulcahy was set to start third. He will not take the start, at least in that position. Justin Rothberg starts alongside. Then it's George Kurtz and Elias Sabo, Kyle Washington and Ross Schwest, Marco Schultes in the older Callaway Corvette, and he'll have Blake McDonald alongside in the newer GT3 Corvette. We got a couple of GT2 cars here, Adrian Kunzel and CJ Moses. Then Jason Bell and Jeff Burton both had issues in qualifying. They have to start at the back of the combined SRO 3 GT2 field. In GT4, Paul Sparta on pole alongside Judson Holt, and Rico Schlemoon making his debut in the championship. Comes from single-seater racing. He joins ACI Motorsports for the weekend. He'll start out back. That's how they'll line up. Let's talk about the track, though, here, Calvin. Just a shade under 2 miles around, using the city streets of Long Beach, California. It's a lot flatter than the last track we visited at Sonoma, but the challenge remains the same.
It is, but for a street circuit, there's some real subtleties. It does have a little bit of elevation change through some of the corners. We'll dig into that as we see the cars circulating in the race here today. Just under 2 miles in length, 11 turns, and probably the most famous one is this hairpin right here. Low speed through here is about 30 miles an hour, and then these SRO 3 cars, the GT3 machinery, will burst up Shoreline Drive and reach speeds close to 160 miles an hour as they hit the brake pedal for turn 1. So very much a rhythm section. You really use small margins here without collecting the wall. It's a fun racetrack, though. There's a lot of character to this, but it's certainly very challenging as well.
Unfortunate news from Amanda. Patrick Mulcahy will not take the start. That throttle cable issue deprives him of a chance to make a start here at Long Beach, at least today.
Yeah, well, that's one of the quirks with a street race. The paddock is over. The entrance to get onto the racetrack is between turns 8 and 9. So if you don't make it out once the cars are circulating, basically you're kind of stranded there on an island, so to speak, to even get to the grid.
It's also been a stop-and-start weekend. It doesn't have the same flow of a normal SRO America weekend because GT America is joining the likes of IndyCar and IMSA and Robbie Gordon Stadium Super Trucks. Formula Drift has spent some time on track in the last week as well. With that comes limited track time, and maybe especially on a street course where you don't get the chance to test. you'd love to have a lot of practice time, but that's just not afforded with a schedule as jam-packed as this one.
It isn't, and that racetrack changes with the different championships, running different tires, different rubber goes down, so there can be some subtle differences in the balance of the race car once we get to green here from what they actually had during practice and the short qualifying session here yesterday afternoon.
As mentioned, just under 2 miles around, 11 turns in total. A section of the track right around here, in fact, was repaved a couple of years back. Over the winter, this event was purchased by Penske Entertainment, taking over stewardship after from Jerry Forsyth, who had looked after it for a number of years. More problems from the GMG camp. This is CJ Moses in a GT2 spec Audi, making a call to the pit lane, and to say the least, this is not expected.
No, just did a couple of events last year. This is his first foray into action this year, so this will be a disappointment if he does have a technical issue that precludes him from seeing the start here today.
Electrical issue is the report from Amanda, who's all over it down in the pit lane. Thank you very much. CJ was really looking forward to this. This is his first time back in the car after some back issues over the winter, but he'll have to wait a little while longer to take the race start. Field in alignment coming down Shoreline Drive in Long Beach, California. The pole sitter is the Aston Martin driven by Gray Newell, who jumps on the loud pedal as Yuko Raid waves the green flag. The award-winning DJ and motorsport enthusiast watches the field roar underneath. Great getaway.
Look at Kyle Washington down to the inside on George Kurtz there. An amazing move. Does he make it stick? Yes, he does, up to P3.
Kyle driving with a lot of confidence right now, coming off of a race win overall in GT America. First time in his career that he's been an overall GT3 race winner. That was just a couple of weeks ago at Sonoma, and he's putting a disappointing qualifying effort behind him quickly. He's already up to third, but look at James Safronis piling the pressure onto young Gray Newell.
Yeah, big run there by James out of turn 5. He's on the outside now. He's going to try and run the cushion there. There's not a lot of grip. Gray Newell did a really nice job on the start of anticipating it, but now Safronis looks down to the inside for turn 8.
This is the veteran Safronis taking his Audi to the lead on lap number 1. The pole sitter Gray Newell shuffled back to second. Safronis celebrating his 20th year of involvement as a driver here at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. He told me there's no way I'm missing this one, and he's taking advantage right now. Further back, good battles in the fringes of the top 5. George Kurtz has his hands full of Justin Rothberg, and Elias Sabo was lying in wait just behind.
Yeah, there's a great battle going on there, but James Safronis, 28 career victories, 3 have come on the streets at Long Beach. He loved this event. And he's got his old mate, Kyle Washington, just one car back as Rothberg starting to put the heat back on George Kurtz for P4.
Here he comes. He gets to the outside of that Mercedes. And look at the BMW InPower coming down Shoreline Drive. Kurtz, though, late on the brakes. He's able to stay alongside. 2 by 2 they go into turn number 1, and it tightens up quick here, but Rothberg is able to make the pass.
Yeah, really great heads-up driving there by Rothberg. He could see that George was making a big move down the inside. He'd recognized that Kurtz may not have the grip, so he gave him a wide berth, cleared the tire bundle on the exit, and maintains that position. Really nice driving.
BMW up to 4th. Turner Motorsport, this is their second race of the day. Same is true for Heart of Racing and a few other of these entities already taking part in the 100-minute IMSA race earlier this afternoon. It was a top 5 run for Turner there, looking to do better than that in this 40-minute outing. Rothberg making good headway here in the early going.
Coming on that back straightaway, we see Ross West aboard the new Corvette that he's campaigning with the Schwest Parvaledo racing team. Sabo ran here in the IMSA race here last year, so he's got GT3 experience on this racetrack. That should serve him well here today.
Looks like Jason Bell also may not have taken the start. Not shown as having completed even part of a lap. So 3 cars gone by the wayside before this race even begins. Mulcahy with the throttle cable issue, CJ Moses with electrical gremlins, and Jason Bell, who did have an incident in qualifying, and maybe it's a residual issue from that, but looks like he will not take part here in race 1.
Yeah, it's a shame. I saw the car looked like it was ready to go this morning when I was up in the garage area, and for Jeff Burton, he also had an incident. There was major left side damage to the regulator racing machine, but he was good to see the start here today.
3 Corvettes in a line, but from 2 different specs. We've got the Schwest Povaledo Racing Corvette leading the triumvirate. Do have a penalty issued here by race control. Car 7 handed a start violation a 5-second post-race penalty. That is Rico Schlemun making his debut in one of the GT4 cars, the Porsche Cayman, in fact. That's in the background of this shot. This is the battle, though, for the lead in GT4. Paul Sparta, owner and driver, Random Vandals Racing, which got a big GT3 win at Sonoma a couple of weeks ago. Meantime, here's Elias Sabo on the attack, and George Kurtz, uncharacteristically, is slipping backwards.
Yeah, that's really a big surprise. We expected him to be one of the stronger runners here this weekend. Has a lot of street course experience. And he's actually chasing after P.D. Cunningham's win record that stands at 43. George is now up to 42 victories with another victory in GT America at Sonoma. So that's on his radar. Talking to Bill Riley, the team boss there. He said George is going for wins, but this is not the way to do it. He's backpedaling right now as Kyle Washington now putting the heat on Gray Newell, and Justin Rothberg has caught this little group.
More electrical gremlins, evidently the culprit for Jason Bell, according to Racers Edge Motorsports team owner John Meraki. Thanks to Amanda for tracking that information down. Meanwhile, we watch this battle. Gray Newell, the pole sitter, now a second and a half adrift of race leader James Safronis. Kyle Washington in his tire tracks, and look at Rothberg. He was a ways back of this pairing as he was fighting with Kurtz just a couple of laps ago, and now he finds himself perhaps in a place where he can fight for a step on the podium.
Yeah, and he's certainly used to that. He had 4 victories last year on his way to the P2 in this championship. Just got pipped by a single point by Johnny O'Connell for the overall championship, but he's a young driver who's really making a big statement here over the last couple of seasons. He's coming on strong, and he very rarely makes a mistake. He's very poised in these type of high-pressure situations.
Ferrari Challenge champ a couple of years ago, GT World Challenge America champion last season in the Pro-Am ranks, and then there was the runner-up, as you chronicled, here in GT America, the single-driver format for Justin Rothberg. 2 fourth-place finishes at Long Beach a year ago. He finds himself in 4th, but it looks like he's got the pace to take the fight to the top 3.
Yeah, and that BMW is certainly very strong on the straightaways here in terms of the overall lap time. They're pretty evenly matched, all of the manufacturers, but that's where the edge sits with the BMW. So he's just trying to eye up the competition. Gray Newell doing an excellent job. He doesn't have a ton of the GT3 experience like the driver in front of him, James Safronis, does. And Kyle Washington, what a statement he's making over the last 12 months. He's really coming on strong. I think teaming up with Tom Sargent in GT World Challenge has really brought his game up to a different level. He does a ton of racing as Rothberg looks to the inside on the entry there to turn 6.
Totally agree. We've seen a new Kyle Washington in that time span, about 12 months, 18 months or so. That aggressive move on the start, that was eye-popping stuff, and it got him here in this position now where he's fighting for 2nd.
Well, it's aggression, and it's also a feel that he has for a race car, being able to push a little bit deeper when the tires aren't totally up to temperature, having the confidence to do that without stepping over the mark. So love to see these sort of moves, particularly when you pull them off in fine style like he did here today.
Gray Newell in the heart of racing. Aston Martin running 2nd, gets a little bit of a nudge from behind from Kyle Washington, who looked to put the power down very well out of the hairpin. Now sits in the slipstream. This is the curving front stretch, let's call it, not straightaway. Not much straight about this section of the racetrack, but it leads to this big brake zone here. We know Washington is brave on the brakes.
Oh, he's in there deep.
Yep, he thought about it, but had to back out.
Problem is, if you have to use that extra little bit of brake pressure to stay off the tail of the competitor, suddenly that ABS can kick in and numb the braking a little bit, take braking force away, and suddenly you're touching the car in first to try and avoid them. Rothberg looking to see if there's opportunity once again. This is a sector of the racetrack where that BMW seems to be very strong.
It does. He looked and made a lunge 1 lap ago. Again, he pokes the nose out of line. Again, he tucks back in. Tough spot here for Washington, who I believe does have the pace perhaps to get around Gray Newell, but he can't be focused entirely on making the pass because Rothberg is lurking dangerously right behind.
Newell's doing a really great job here of hitting his marks. I think maybe it's compromising his speed a little bit in his pace. It's allowing Safronis to skip away to the tune of 3 seconds now, but Gray Newell doing an excellent job as he adapts to GT3 competition on a full-time basis.
Did not run in the GT America races at Sonoma Raceway earlier this year, but did take part in the GT World Challenge America season opener. Darren Turner, longtime Aston Martin factory driver, is his co-driver this season in that 2-driver format 90-minute race championship that serves as the tentpole for SRO America, but getting a little extra seat time and a chance as well to race at a prestigious venue like this one here at Long Beach always has a little extra allure.
Yeah, it's on everyone's bucket list. You've been watching this race if you've been a racing fan for many, many years, and the chance to bring your race car and compete here is certainly a special event. And Gray's doing a really nice job of hitting his mark. When you got someone like Kyle Washington in your rear view camera, you know he's going to be bold and maybe make a move, so it's hard to hit your marks and have an eye on him at the same time.
Elias Sabo, not too far behind, running in 5th. Checking his lap times, and looks like he's running comparable to this trio that he's trying to chase down. That's a look at CJ Moses. Frustration plainly written on his face, left of the screen when we were taking a look at some of the GMG Racing crew members. He was telling me that he only got the okay medically to get in the car and race here this weekend about a week or so ago. So he didn't do any testing in the offseason as he was continuing to work and deal with some back issues that cropped up at the tail end of the last calendar year.
Sabo's absolutely flying. He's catching this group in front of him. Looking at fastest sectors, Sofronis had fastest sector 2, but Gray Newell just laid down the fastest sector 3 of this race on that last tour around. But James Sofronis has dropped the fast lap down to a 120.9, and everyone else is in the 21s and above. So he's certainly got the edge and stretching the lead out front right now for GMG.
And that does matter. Fast lap, it might not pay any bonus points, but it does set the grid for race 2 in GT America. Fastest lap from race 1 is effectively the qualifying for the second race of the weekend. Rothberg, that looked a bit more sincere that time as he again made the lunge in that same spot, but again Kyle Washington late enough on the brakes to fend him off.
Yeah, and he's a little bit kind of compromising his line down the hill into that turn-in point for turn 8 to deter Rothberg from making a move. But here he comes, he's in the wheel tracks now, he's got a big head of steam, looks to the inside into the brake zone, dirty part of the racetrack, just needs to control it right now. Washington takes it in really deep, swings back across, he's wide, he's in the gray, can't get the traction down. Rothberg is through, it looks like.
BMW passed the Porsche, and now another BMW starts to close in. That's Elias Sabo, who has been turning in fast sector after fast sector. That's allowed him to catch this battling duo of Kyle Washington and Justin Rothberg. Rothberg up to 3rd now, and he sets off in pursuit of Gray Newell.
Yeah, really nice driving there. He got the run. I mean, Washington compromised his speed down Seaside Way by that shallow entry into turn 8. Rothberg pounced, got to the inside and controlled that situation really nicely.
What can Elias do now that he's arrived? And for Kyle Washington, I mean, the role has reversed on him really quickly. He looked super aggressive early in the going and now appears to be a bit vulnerable after 10 minutes of this 40-minute race. Back to the fight at the lead of GT4, where Paul Sparta has his hands full of Judson Holt at the moment.
Yeah, this is a great battle for the GT4 lead right now. Paul Sparta's had it from the pole position from the get-go. He was excited to be here at Long Beach. And what a program he's putting together on so many levels with Random Vandals. You talked about the success they had at Sonoma. Across all of the classes there, they've really got a great team that they're building there as Holt is continuing to put the pressure on Paul for the lead right now down into turn 1.
Judson Holt does not have a ton of experience at this level. Did make one start at Circuit of the Americas last year, and we saw him at Sonoma to start this 2025 campaign as well. That's the bright yellow Lupe Tortilla BMW M4 GT4 out of the Fast Track Racing stable. Got the Lone Star flag of Texas flying proudly on the roof. Texas-based driver, Texas-based team racing here in California.
Have to go and try that out when we hit Coda in a couple of weeks. Ryan,
Help me
what do you
in.
think? You like Mexican.
I love Mexican. Let's not downplay it.
Amanda loves a margarita. We're in good shape.
Absolutely. Sign me up. James Sofronis in control. 4.7 seconds clear of Gray Newell, who now finds himself under assault from a different car. It's now Justin Rothberg who's arrived on the scene. We drop back a little bit. George Kurtz. Now back to Ross Schwest. We were talking a bit ago about this trio of Corvettes, and Ross Schwest leads it. Mirko Schultes just behind. That's the Callaway Corvette, the C7 version of the Corvette, and then it's Blake McDonald.
Yeah, and Blake McDonald just laid down the new fast lap of this race, so that would put him on pole position for tomorrow if it sticks. So I'm sure that message is being loud and clear sent to James Sofronis up front. Listen, your pole position for tomorrow is in threat. You got to get on it and hammer down, see if you can find another fast lap before the checkered flag here this afternoon.
Ross Schwest, just his second race weekend in this Corvette. Ran the Mercedes platform last year. Let's look at the Mitsubishi Motors team behind Mirko Schultes, and Mirko is hunting. He got to the side of Ross Schwest. He'll have the outside line into the braking zone. Meanwhile, Sabo, whoa, he's deep on the brakes and he can't get it woe down in time. Has to use the runoff area.
Yeah, that was really just fine judgment there and recognizing if you kept turning, you're going to end up T-boning that wall. So made the wise choice. Sometimes these cars are really difficult to engage reverse gear and get out of that situation. I really think, I know it's tough with hard tires, you're best to pull over to one side and try and do a flick spin rather than trying to find reverse gear, but that just comes down to experience, and you can be flustered in those situations in terms of making that correct decision.
Did look like Schwest held off Schultes in the fight for 6th and 7th. We now focus our attention here on Gray Newell, who has company in the form of Justin Rothberg. Aston Martin ahead of BMW, running about a half a second apart on the racetrack, but that gap has closed precipitously over the past few laps.
Yeah, and Rothberg has laid down the third fastest lap of the race. The grid tomorrow would line up with McDonald on pole, Sofronis on the front row, and Rothberg in P3, but we've still got a lot of minutes left in this race for these drivers to try and attack and find a faster lap.
Oh, problems for Paul Sparta, leader in GT4. That has allowed Judson Holt through and into the lead in class. Now Sparta is in that same predicament, trying to get turned around. He only had an 8-second advantage over Rico Schleemann, and Schleemann now comes through into second place.
Yeah, having to do a 3-point turn here. As I said, it's hard to spin up those rear tires when they've been in race conditions like this. So, looked like they were side by side into the brake zone there. I'm not sure if just Paul had to bail on it, because otherwise he wasn't going to make the corner. But either way, big delay. He's got to go on the attack now and find his rhythm.
It's been a long time since these cars have been on track. And conditions certainly have changed. Lots of different rubber put down. Battle on here for second as Newell forced on the defensive. Rothberg drops back now, tries to time his run coming out of the corner, and he's right there in the tire tracks of the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, tried to do the over-under, the crossover on Gray Newell in 2 consecutive corners there. He's trying to set it up here again with some traffic up ahead.
That's right, that's the Schleemann car from ACI Motorsports. It's a smaller GT4 grid this year than we've had in previous years, so the mixed class nature, which can certainly spice up street course racing, we don't quite have the same degree of that here in 2025.
No, we don't, unfortunately. So I think it was really a great curveball to get about halfway through the race like we're seeing right now. But either way, there's some fierce battles going on throughout this field. Rothberg certainly has his eyes on that P2 position. Sofronis now nearly 7 seconds down the road. Dominant performance by he. Can he find a faster lap, though? Blake McDonald has actually lowered the fast lap now down to a 20.6, so he sits down in P8 after a relatively poor qualifying showing. I think he was caught out by that red flag situation yesterday before he laid down a fast lap, but he's demonstrating the potential of that Corvette racing machine.
No shortage of potential in it, as we've seen. It's Kyle Washington, who now runs by his lonesome, really for the first time all race. He seemed like he'd been in the thick of things, made that big move on the initial start to get up into third, now finds himself fourth, with George Kurtz trying to chase him down, but George just hasn't had the pace to fight here with the front runners, which comes as a surprise. He's had plenty of experience here at Long Beach and street course racing more generally over the years, and it seems like he likes the scrappiness of these street courses.
Yeah, I think George is one where he typically just finds it, do you know what I mean? Sometimes you see him, he's a little bit off, and then he just keeps working at his craft, and he digs deep and keeps grinding and gradually chips away and finds that lap time. But you're right, this is kind of a bit of a head scratcher here to see him sort of like drop down there in P5 and not really threatening a podium today.
Saw Sofronis come through turn one and then waited for this battle for second to arrive, and it did about 7 seconds and change later. Still Gray Newell doing a great job on the defensive here. Yes, he did lose the spot to the veteran Sofronis on cold tires there on the opening lap, but since then he has taken on several challengers and has not at any point looked like he was terribly vulnerable to giving up that second position.
No, certainly Rothberg was working him over, trying to figure out a solution to the puzzle and make that move, but Newell's standing tall here, and he's really rolling good momentum through the middle of these low-speed corners. Looks like he's just releasing the car and letting it flow through the corners rather than start and stopping it, which is really a great trick to have here on these street circuits.
This was his street course debut last year for Justin Rothberg, and I think he admitted at the time that it could be a bit intimidating with the walls all around, but 1 year on, and you think about how much experience he gained last year, admittedly not on any other street courses, but some of the battles that he was in with some big names, Johnny O'Connell and Jason Daskalos, and on and on and on. He just has to be that much more well-equipped for this challenge here 1 year later.
I think so, and the other thing is, you know, talking to the team, he really didn't do any off-season testing. So since we left Indy last year, first time he got back in a race car was like the test days leading up to the Sonoma weekend. So to come back so strong, have such a competitive weekend there, and now showing this sort of speed once again, that's hard to do when you don't have that experience to kind of draw from. Years of experience when you've only been doing it a couple of years at this level, so he's doing a great job once again.
Here we go again. Schwest and Schultes, and you know what? They appear to be catching George Kurtz as well. This is the kind of run that Ross Schwest really needed here, though, Cal. They had a disappointing weekend and a frustrating one. Change of position here for a second.
Yeah, I wonder if Rothberg just made a big dive down the inside because Newell's coming off that corner with not much speed. So I wonder if he made a late move and that caught Newell out by surprise there.
Not sure exactly how he got the move made, but you can tell he has. And he's got about half of a race now still to go to try and chase down James Sofronis. And the question becomes for Justin Rothberg, do you push and try and make up that gap, or maybe do you conserve a little, hope for a yellow to bunch things up and make sure you've got something to fight with if that safety car should come out?
Yeah, I think he'll run a couple of hard laps here and then get some information from the team at this sort of pace. Is there any chance of catching him, then make that decision? But looking at fast laps, Blake McDonald continues to tune it up a little bit now, 120.434. Sofronis has responded with a 120.55, so it's getting tight there for that pole position for tomorrow.
Really curious what Rothberg can do with clear racetrack for the first time in this race now that he's made the move on Newell. And here comes Washington again. Maybe he took a couple of moments just to regroup, to cool things off, but he's starting to make some inroads. And this is how Rothberg got the move made. Started out looking left, came back across to the right, and Newell gave him plenty of room.
He did, and with that, he's got kind of fumbling there in the wrong gear to have any acceleration off the corner, and that's what gave Rothberg the big gap and made it comfortable to move forward and focus forward, see if he can chase down this driver, James Sofronis.
How about this? Sector 1 personal best from Rothberg. Sector 2 was an overall best, and we'll see what he can put together to close out the lap. James Sofronis, who has led since the opening lap, he took the lead away from Gray Newell on the first lap of the race and has not really been challenged since, but that could be changing. We'll see what kind of pace Rothberg has. How about a 120 flat? That's half a second faster than Sofronis that time by.
Yeah, going to be tough to catch him even at that sort of speed delta between the two cars, but really a great precursor for what may happen tomorrow because he has found the pace in that race car. He's going to have pole position as it sits right now, and he's got fast pace as well for Sofronis to deal with. So Sofronis is at all his way right now once he made that move on the opening lap to grab the lead, but nonetheless he knows he's got some fast competitors in this field, including his friend and customer here, Kyle Washington.
That lap from Rothberg also would put him on pole for tomorrow as things stand, but the times continue to tumble as the fuel load burns off. Temperatures also starting to come down a little bit as we get later in the day here in Southern California.
Well, the ambient comes down and also the shadows from the building sort of like mean that the track surface is being protected a little bit, so that comes down as well, and that's where you find lap time. You talked about it. Fuel load is burning down, and these Pirelli seem to do such a great job of really performing throughout the stint here for 40 minutes and delivering those fast lap times towards the checkered flag.
This is the scrap for the final step on the podium. Gray Newell has it. Kyle Washington wants it. He was up in that position for a time, but has been shuffled back to fourth. And he spent about 10 minutes early in this race sizing up Gray Newell, trying to put the move on. Couldn't get it done at the time. but maybe conditions have changed enough, or the balance of the respective cars have changed enough here in the final 16.5 minutes where he can have a run at Newell for third.
Kurtz holds down P5, but he's got to keep pushing because Schwest and Schultes look like they got the pace to maybe catch him and give him some attention here over the last half of this race.
They do. Schultes in that brightly colored Callaway Corvette. Got a great rumble to it. Definitely a different note than the newer C8 Chevy Corvette. Z06 GT3R, that number 50 Westport Yachts entry from Schwest Povolato Racing.
Spoke to Schultes' crew this morning and said, are you going to be doing the full season? We said, we're not absolutely certain. I think we're going to be at Sebring. Not sure about Coda. There is some travel that Mirko has to do that week, so I'm not sure if it's feasible, but he's one of those competitors. He just has so much passion for the sport. We've talked for so many years now about his love of the GM power plant, which has really driven him to most of his success in the world of motorsports over the last few decades. And he's also talked about the potential of maybe running this car in GT World Challenge with a two-driver lineup before the end of the year, which would be pretty exciting as well.
It's interesting. I didn't know if that would be viable, considering it's an older car. It's not in current GT3 homologation, but I'd love to see it. Let's find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I wonder who the co-driver would be. Let the speculation commence.
Kelowitz was the guy that he drafted in at one point
Yes.
early in the going, wasn't it? So maybe he'll bring him over.
Yeah, Daniel Kalwitz was Callaway. I mean, in as much as Callaway was a pseudo factory unto itself, he kind of was the bespoke factory guy for them. And I remember the Callaway team turned up at St. Pete a couple of years ago in what was a star-crossed partial season, admittedly, but Kalwitz was really quick. I think he had a pole in one of those races. Does that ring a bell?
At St. Pete, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that he was there, and I'm not sure how that weekend ended up going at the end. I don't think it was a great result for the team, but nonetheless, it did show great pace. And he also mentioned Renger van der Zen, his name, who he's shared a prototype challenge car with before, but he said, I'm not sure his Acura contract will allow that to happen. But anyway, he's talking about it, and let's see if it manifests itself into an entry before the season is out.
I wonder, would Renger have been his co-driver when he won Petit back in 2014? I can go do a little digging. I think that's probably the case. But yeah, a guy who's super passionate about it, Mirko Schultes, and just loves the thrill of it, loves the fight. Being out there, mixing it up, doesn't put a whole lot of pressure on himself to go out and qualify well, because he just likes being in the middle of the scrap.
He really fired it in there through the fountain turn. Took a big entry speed and caught the race car. This is fun. He's driving the wheels off it. He's having fun out there.
I'm told that actually there is a homologation on this car through 2026. So, yeah, I guess we could potentially see that. That would be outstanding. Do wonder, I don't know, that maybe in the past GM had been proprietary in terms of having customer cars running against the newest and greatest from the factory, but this is all customer racing here.
It is, and I think it's for moments like this they got the latest and greatest out there, and Mirko's given a hard time with the older generation Corvette. So I think this is exactly the reason why it may be frowned on a little bit from corporate.
Yep. Ooh, here we go. Fight for third. Kyle Washington goes to the headlight flasher button to make sure Gray Newell knows he is coming. I suspect Gray does. This is where Washington's been pretty aggressive. Newell knows it, kind of covers off the inside, but does he cover it enough? Here comes Washington late on the brakes, but has to bail out of it. Whoa! Pinching the exit was Newell, and he nearly spun it around.
Yeah, he kind of didn't want to go for the apex in case Kyle really committed down at the inside, so he's being pretty heads up there. Oh, Kyle, that's not going to work there. He's really hassling Newell for all he's worth right now. Newell's not sure what sort of move he's going to make. That would have been incredible, making a move there into turn 4.
Still over a quarter of this race to go. Maybe some patience still required, but Kyle Washington clearly feels like he's got the pace in hand to make a move to get him on the podium. In the meantime, Justin Rothberg's pursuit of Safronis has slowed considerably. He took about a second off in the course of 2 laps, and then since then, it's been just little pieces that he's been chipping away. Trails by 8 seconds now.
Carl just missed it there a little bit. Not sure if he didn't get the downshift done in time or whatever, but just missed the corner a little bit. Could have gotten into the ABS if he asked for a little bit more braking pressure with the racetrack, maybe a little bit slick offline, but nonetheless, he recovers, resets, and goes chases him down again.
11 minutes on the clock. Kyle Washington in fourth. Gray Newell just up the road. Behind, I think we're going to have a really good battle before too much longer. George Kurtz, Ross Schwest, Mirko Schultes now all nose to tail, and Blake McDonald, who has been fast sporadically. He's had a bunch of really fast single laps, but hasn't quite been able to put them together consecutively. If he can, he's got plenty of speed in his Corvette to get into that mix as well.
Yeah, he really does. Right now he's got the second fastest lap of this race after that flyer from Justin Rothberg. Newell, I think when he's not being hassled by Kyle Washington, he's really driving this racetrack incredibly well. I love the way that he's releasing the brakes and allowing the car to roll through the apex speed, not killing that momentum. That'll be a lot easier on the tires as well versus stopping and starting and firing off the corner with a lot of acceleration and digging into the traction control.
I did find the answer to my query about Renger van der Zande and Mirko Schultes. They did win Petit together. I thought that might have been the case. That was for Star Works and Peter Barron over a decade ago somehow. Time flies. Quarter of the race to go here. Safronis leads comfortably, now 8.5 seconds over Justin Rothberg. Then it's this battle. Gray Newell, Kyle Washington. We can't take our eyes off of it, as Washington looks threatening and has. But so far, Gray Newell, despite the fact that Washington's thrown several haymakers, Newell's been able to dip and dodge and not let one of them connect.
Yeah, and that second place run for Rothberg is kind of good news in the championship as well, because George Kurtz leads that. He's not having a great day, and he's not anticipated to run the full season either. And Safronis only does sporadic events as well, so that could put Rothberg in really good shape in terms of the championship big picture.
A little bit of traffic here, and it does balk Gray Newell. Not much Paul Sparta could do, just poor timing for Newell, and immediately Washington closes back in. And he'll start the assault anew.
Paul Sparta right now is the fastest lap of the race in GT4, so that would give him the pole in GT4 for tomorrow. It's only by 1/10 of a second over Holt, so they're very closely matched, as we saw in the first half of this race on the racetrack as well.
Yeah, we did catch the end of what happened to Paul, where he ended up in the runoff area, and we were wondering what might have led to that, but we did get confirmation that there was no contact. He just was a little too late on the brakes and ended up having to take evasive action into the runoff area. Again, it cost Paul dearly, dropped him down to third, having previously led the race from pole.
Looks like the Aston may have just a little bit more straightaway speed than the Porsche, even with the Porsche being in the tow in the draft there down Shoreline Drive. Really doesn't seem to make inroads, but Washington's really late on the brakes. You can see it really dancing around into the brake zone there, and he keeps thinking about that move into turn 3-4 area there, which is pretty crazy.
Is it genuine, or is that there just to get in the head of Gray Newell?
Well, I think Gray Newell is so heads up. He's so aware where Kyle Washington is. I think if he sees him go for it, Gray may open up his hands and give him the lane. So it is possible. There's a lot of curb you can eat up on the inside there if you have to tighten up a little bit. So seems to be his mantra right now, that he thinks he can make a move there if he's a little bit closer.
Rothberg has made a few more inroads as of late, but time is running out. Still 7.5 seconds behind the overall leader, James Safronis.
So impressed at Sonoma. I had a chance to chat with Gray when he jumped out of the race car for one of the practice sessions there and was debriefing with Darren Turner and the team, and had a good chat with him on the walk back to the garage area. And he's really pretty astute and very technically savvy in terms of what's going on with the race car, and that will serve him well. I mean, they do a lot of work. They've got a lot of great people there with Ian James, the team principal. Paul Charlesley has got a ton of racing experience and background as well. So they've got some great leadership there, and they've certainly got the resources. They've got a great sim program. They've got their own driver in loop simulator there in Arizona, which all of their drivers get put through on a regular basis. So they've got all of the tools of the trade, but nonetheless, Gray's doing a great job as he ducks around there.
Clearing Schlemoon in the GT4 Porsche Cayman. I credit Ian James as well, who has been shepherding Gray Newell along for, 3-4 years at this point, for being patient and preaching patience. A lot of the young drivers, you see them kind of rush through the categories from GT4 to GT3 and then maybe into a prototype or something like that. But Gray took his time in GT4 and by the end was a consistent threat for pole. He was a consistent threat for a podium and a sporadic race win. And it does seem like this GT3, whether it's the Aston here or the Mercedes he's driven elsewhere, it does seem to suit him nicely, but he's got his hands full at the moment.
Yeah, he really seems to embrace the higher horsepower, high downforce machines, doing a great job. He's very savvy, as I said. He's a very smart young man, as now Washington looks down to the inside. Gray just doesn't tighten up, gives it a moment, lets it breathe a little bit, and then see how it settles down before he commits to the corner.
Well, seems as if Gray at this point says, you know what, I've seen that before. I know how to deal with it. It's almost as if Kyle Washington might need to try something different, pull out a new...
He's close enough now. He may try and move here. What is Gray going to do? He's trying to be proactive, picking that left-hand side of the road. That was really nice, the way he judged that. Kyle gets a little bit wide, but he lost a little bit of ground by taking that wide line. So really great heads-up driving there by Gray Newell. Didn't go all the way left and get in the marble, just kept his car in a position where he made Washington commit to the right-hand side for the left-hand turn.
It's been a really fun battle between these two for a good chunk of this race. Gray Newell has the upper hand, but he needs to hang on for another 4 minutes, 50 seconds if he's going to stand on the podium here at the Grand Prix of Long Beach. He did so twice last year. Excuse me, he did so once last year, finished third in race 2, started on pole in race 1, but that was in the GT4 class. Now fighting for an overall podium at one of the most prestigious venues in North American racing.
And that's a big difference. You talk about race positions, whether it's for the lead, certainly winning is what it's all about, right? But to spray some champagne on the streets of Long Beach, that is a special moment, and you know that Kyle Washington is thinking about that. He loves to have a good time, and he'd love to be celebrating here this evening, so he's going to give his all here for the last 4 minutes of this race.
Traffic looming ahead. That's the leader in GT4, Judson Holt. Now, Gray Newell 1 year ago would have been in the opposite position, right? Where he would have had the overall leaders coming through as he was racing for a podium in GT4. So now the shoe is on the other foot. He's able to deal with it nicely, as is Washington. Holt gives a wide berth, and through comes the Aston, through comes the Porsche.
Yeah, and Gray's really doing a great job. Really got great acceleration run there off of turn 6, down the hill. Got to hang on, though. It's hard to miss that brightly colored Porsche right behind him. I'm sure he's staring at the eyeballs of Kyle Washington at the same time in that rear view camera.
Vibrant e-boost livery on Kyle Washington's Porsche 911 GT3R. It's been a car you just can't keep your eyes off all race long. That brilliant start was eye-popping, and he's just been in the thick of the action. Just kind of Kyle's personality anyway. He's up for the challenge.
He is a fun character. He really is. I love Kyle Washington. I love what he's all about. I love how he goes about his racing, his business, and life in general.
Ooh, Newell kept it wide there, and it did look like from the tails away shot that perhaps Washington was closer than he had been to maybe overlapping slightly, but able to continue on.
Kyle is feeling it. He knows time is running out. He's going to ramp up the intensity. He gets a big run there side by side. He's got the overlap. Newell still has the inside line for the upcoming left-hand turn, turn 6. Washington trying to squeeze him a little bit. He runs out wide. They're both stymied a little bit. Washington's got the run down the hill, it looks like.
He does, and he's cleared the Aston, and he's cleared him with ease. Kyle Washington, it took him the better part of 15 minutes, but he comes out ahead in the duel for the 3rd position with Gray Newell, who's dropped down to 4th. We saw that happen with Gray, where he got bogged down a bit when he was fighting with Rothberg, and you said at the time maybe he just got caught in the wrong gear.
That's what it looks like. You got to be really on your toes there when you suddenly realize you're down on speed. React, and here's Safronis. Before the checkered flag, he's on pit lane, or is that the front straightaway?
I think that's the front straightaway. It is.
Wow.
That is the overall leader of the race, stopped just a handful of feet away from start finish. We're still green for the moment, but boy, that has changed this race completely. Rothberg is through to the lead. Washington is second. Newell now third. And any of these great battles that we have, will hope that Sofronis can get that car refired and we don't have to in behind a safety car.
This is crazy. Had a couple of podiums here last year. Did have some brake issues where Carl really wasn't all singing and dancing in the brake zones last year, but they got that rectified. But with that problem for Sofronis, this gives Rothberg the lead. But at the same time, Blake McDonald has taken away the fast lap of this race. Will sit on pole for tomorrow with just got a minute left in this motor race.
Full course yellow.
No option.
Nope. That car was in a dangerous position. They gave James a chance to get it restarted. He could not. And so the white flag will wave along with the yellow. And barring something utterly catastrophic and unforeseen, Justin Rothberg is one lap away from becoming a race winner here on the streets of Long Beach.
Oh, that's a heartbreaker.
Report from Amanda is that the engine is still running, that the folks on the pit lane, they could hear the engine rev, but it won't engage gear and it won't drive.
Broken input shaft or something, I would suspect.
Wow. And it came with less than 2 minutes left in the race, with a victory all but a foregone conclusion, barring something catastrophic.
Yeah, just a great display of driving here today by James. You know, he's got a ton of support here. His business used to be just down the street here, just burst onto the scene. 20 years ago, I think, is his first race here, correct?
That is correct. This is a celebration of 20 years of involvement for James Sofronis and GMG.
And he said those first races here really blew up his business in a good way. I mean, in terms of getting the exposure by racing here and getting that brand of GMG noticed in the local area here.
Yeah, Patrick Mulcahy, who we did not get a chance to see today, but he's a LA guy who wanted to go racing and looked up, all right, who's the local prep shop? And it was GMG, and people have been doing that in LA now for 20 years. Racing is part and parcel with James' business, selling aftermarket parts and working on some of the great cars in this part of the world. And no better place to advertise what they do than through motorsport. Final lap, and it will end behind the safety car. That also basically locks in the starting grid for tomorrow with no chance to set a faster lap. Blake McDonald set to be on the overall pole tomorrow. That's fascinating. Adrian Kunzel will be on the pole in GT2 and Paul Sparta in GT4. But all eyes right now are on Justin Rothberg, the championship runner-up 1 year ago, behind the safety car. He'll see the checkered flag first in GT America, powered by AWS. Race 1 on the streets of Long Beach. His second straight podium here in the third race of the season as he goes for a championship in year number 2. GT2, the race win to Adrian Kunzel, and GT4, Judson Holt for Fast Track Racing, able to get the job done. Interesting, a change in position. That's because of the penalty. Remember, Rico Schlemoon had the penalty for the start infraction. It didn't look like that would matter because he had a massive lead over Sparta, but because the race ends under safety car, the field condenses, those positions flip, and Paul Sparta ends up second.
Great run by Rothberg there. I mean, I think certainly that qualifying session yesterday kind of buried him in the pack a little bit to start this race, but he picked his way through nicely. Had some great pace there. Didn't end up with the race's fastest lap. He'll have a front row starting position for tomorrow, but nonetheless, he was there to pick up the pieces when Sofronis had his issues. So that's how you build a championship season. Great run for him.
Especially when some of the likely championship rivals had difficult days. And yeah, fantastic drive from Rothberg, who came here a year ago as a street course neophyte. Now he's a race winner. And you look at some of the names that have won here at Long Beach. Brian Redmond won the first Formula 5000 race in 1975. Mario Andretti, multiple wins here. Michael Andretti, multiple wins here. Al Unser Jr., the king of the beach, he won 4 in a row at one point and 6 total. And now you get to join that lineage and so many more as a race winner at this venue. That is a special accomplishment.
Oh, it is. To go to victory lane here, it's something that any driver would love to have on their resume. And for young Justin Rothberg, he's living the dream right now. As we said, he didn't do any off-season testing. Now he's doing all the right things, trying to get plenty of marbles and debris built up on those tires so that he can pass post-race tech, where the weight and ride heights are checked on these race cars. So you're allowed to do this. It's all totally legit. But just all of the tricks of the trade that Turner Motorsport and his teammate in GT World Challenge, Robbie Foley, have taught him over the last couple of seasons.
Busy day for Robbie. He was already racing today and now keeping an eye on his young charge here. Justin Rothberg and helping coach him to a victory. It didn't look like it was coming his way. It looked like it was James Sofronis' day. But tell you what, you take a win any way you can get it. And Rothberg was right there, as you said, when things went awry with less than 2 minutes to go for James Sofronis, who had a lead of over 7 seconds at the time. Rothberg came through, and now he gets to take that right-handed turn into Victory Circle at Long Beach. There's the car. It has arrived. Can't wait to see this celebration. You know, he almost won the title a year ago, came up 1 point short, got off to a slow start, which a lot of that had to do with he was brand new to this type of racing, having come from Ferrari Challenge. A little bit of a slow start this year with a 5th and a 2nd. I think we expected him to pick up right where he left off with a pair of wins at Indy going back to last October, but this now announces Justin Rothberg's arrival in this championship battle.
Absolutely. 4 wins on the year last year, first of 2025. He'll be excited about this one and really starting to get into his groove here early in 2025.
Big smile on his face. I think we got a chance to hear from him now with Amanda Busick.
Yeah. Oh, and as he took his helmet off, guys, he said that was one of the most fun races I have ever competed in. And Justin, last year you talked about how intimidating this racetrack was. This year you told me you wanted to take the mirrors off your BMW. Who told you about James, your team, or did you see him?
I saw him. Actually was not sure what was going on. I just saw a car slowing down on the front straight, and then I realized who it was. And while I don't like to prey on other people's downfall, that was a pretty beautiful sight to see the first place car broken down. So, I mean, that was an amazing race. Everyone was super respectful leaving room. I had a really great time racing against everyone. That was great racing. That was, like I said, one of the most fun races I've ever done.
You've seen the top step of this podium a couple times already in the last 2 seasons. Where does this one rank?
This is a really good one. The street circuit makes it a lot more earned, and then on top of that, it was a hard fight. I think, dropped down to 4th or 5th on the start, so we had a lot of spots to claw back. And yeah, it's just a beautiful feeling, especially at Long Beach, such a historic track.
Justin Rothberg, the GT3 winner here at the 50th anniversary of Long Beach.
Congratulations to him. Big smile on his face.
It's a long pit lane here as well. It's a long ride for the crews to get down here and celebrate with their winning driver.
Yeah, that's the truth. It is a lengthy pit lane, and I believe the pits are all set up about as far away from Victory Circle as can be at this venue. Hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from our other class winners as well, but those are the provisional results. Rothberg, Washington, Newell, the SRO 3 podium. Kunzel ended up running unopposed with the issues pre-race for CJ Moses, so he wins in GT2 and in GT4. Judson Holt picks up the win on the street circuit. Paul Sparta, though, will have pole position, as he did today, and had his hands full. It was a great fight with Judson, but he'll start at the front of the race for race 2 tomorrow. Well, that's how they finished in race 1. Let's hear from some more race winners now in Victory Circle.
Well, Adrian Kunzel was just telling me how he's a little lonely out there as the only GT2 format on the track, but we do expect CJ Moses back with us tomorrow. But Adrian, you said you learned so much in those 40 minutes, but how was the mixed class racing for you?
Mixed class racing I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun. You know, mixing it with the GT3s a little bit at the start. Obviously they were able to pull away, but then lapping the GT4s, you know, you've really got to think about it and make some smart moves, especially on a track like this, which is, you know, going to bite you at the moment's notice. So it was fun.
Congratulations to Adrian, and I'll take Joey with me on RF here down with us as we head over to our GT4 winner. Guys, he was talking about being 50 years old at the 50th anniversary of Long Beach, and you also told me about racing in a sailboat just offshore here. Now you have won on the asphalt. Talk about the battles with Paul, and I know you were able to best him today, but that's kind of how you planned it.
Yeah, it was a great race, and I'm so grateful for Paul and Rico. What a great time we had out here. Just a blast. Great racing. You know, it was close. We were in a battle all the way through, and one turn made the difference. But yeah, great competitors, and I'm just grateful to be out here with them.
Congratulations,
Seriously.
Justin.
And to the Vandals, who are my other favorite team. So awesome. And I want to thank Luby Tortillas, my sponsor, and my whole team back at work. You guys make this possible also. My team at Fast Track Racing for their hard work and effort. BMW, of course, for a great machine to drive. And thank you very much.
Enjoy that champagne.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what it means to win at this track. And I've got to learn more about that sailboat race that he did offshore here in Long Beach. That's pretty cool to hear as well. Fantastic opening race of the weekend. And the best news of all is we get to do it again tomorrow. Second race for GT America powered by AWS coming up tomorrow at 11:20 a.m. local time here on the Pacific coast of the United States. Hope you join us for that. Congratulations to Justin Rothberg, Adrian Kunzel, and Judson Holt for their race wins today. And thanks to you as well for tuning in. On behalf of our entire team, Amanda Busick, Calvin Fish, my name's Ryan Marine. Thanks for joining us. Hope you join us tomorrow for Race 2.